Good afternoon and welcome to today's City Council Cablecast public hearing. Today is January 5th. It is 1:30 p.m. Would the clerk please read the title of the bill?
Bill 926, resolution approving a conditional use application under the Pittsburgh Code Title 9 zoning Article 4, Chapter 910 to Meyer, Unkovich, and Scott on behalf of 429 Forbes for the transfer of development rights involving 87 dwelling units from 201 Stanwick Street to 429 Forbes Avenue, Zone GTB, Golden Triangle, Subdistrict B, First Ward, Council District 6.
Thank you very much. We have a number of invited guests with us today. From the city, we have Ms. Ann Kramer and Mr. Corey Lehman. From the applicant project team, we have Kevin McKeegan, Ian Fishman, and Sean Beasley. We'll begin with either Ms. Kramer or Mr. Lehman providing an overview.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm just here as window dressing. Ann Kramer is the star of the show and will present for city planning.
Thank you very much. Ms. Kramer.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm the star. My name is Ann Kramer. I am with the zoning division, which is a part of the planning department. This application is for the renovation of 429 Forbes Avenue into residential units. The request is to have 190 total units, and of that, 103 would be allowed with Planning Commission approval because it is in the GTB, that is the Golden Triangle Subdistrict B zoning district. The additional 87 units would be are part of the request for a transfer of development rights, and that is a conditional use, which is why the project is here before you today. So on November 10th of 2020, Planning Commission did approve the 103 units that it can approve and gave a positive recommendation to City Council for the conditional use for the transfer of the development rights for those extra 87 units. And that's why we're here today. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Let the record reflect that we are joined by Councilwoman Gross. With that, is there anyone from the project team that would like to add any additional comments?
Yes, Mr. Lavelle, if I could please, I'd like to start. My name is Kevin McKeegan. I'm with Meyer, Unkovich, and Scott. We represent the current owner of the Allegheny Building, 429 Forbes Avenue, LLC. If you were meeting in chambers, you would be able to see the Allegheny Building. It's half a block below Grant Street on Forbes. The building was acquired by our client in August of this year, with the intent of converting it from its prior use as an office building to a multifamily apartment building. As Ms. Kramer has explained, we are seeking conditional use approval, to transfer up to 87 dwelling units, the rights to those units, from 201 Stanwick Street to the Allegheny Building. So there's no misunderstanding. The owner of 201 Stanwick Street and the owner of the Allegheny Building, the property in question, are related and affiliated entities. Just by way of background, the Allegheny Building was constructed back in 1906. For many years, it was known as the Forbes Annex. While it does not have a historic designation, it was designed by a noted architect, Daniel Burnham. And until recently, its primary use was, as I said, as an office building. Those office tenants over the past few years have migrated to other spaces. And when our client acquired the property in August, the building was essentially vacant. The only tenant that's left is the Apollo Cafe luncheonette restaurant. And we're hoping that that cafe operation will remain in the building for some time. We are not proposing any exterior changes to the building. Ian Fishman from Strata Architects is going to go a little bit into design after I'm finished, but just to get that off the table immediately, the building from an exterior perspective will remain as is. So under the zoning code, as Ann explained, the building is entitled to have up to 103 dwelling units in it. And that's based on its lot size of approximately 11,400 square feet. To make a project viable, we'd like to get that number of units up closer to 190. So we're proposing to shift development rights for up to 87 units from 201 Stanwick Street. The 201 Stanwick Street building sits on a lot that's approximately a little over 30,000 square feet in size and would permit 275 dwelling units. So under the zoning code, we're proposing to transfer 87 units from 201 Stanwick Street to the Allegheny building. We're able to do that because currently permitted at 201 Stanwick Street are 158 dwelling units. There are actually a few less than that there now, but it's permitted up to 158. So in effect, there's 117 surplus units, rights to units sitting at 201 Stanwick Street. And 87 of those are going to move over to the Allegheny building. That still leaves some room for expansion at 201 Stanwick should it happen, but it would accommodate what needs to be done to make the Allegheny building project viable. Before I turn the screen over to Ian, who's going to run through some slides for you, I just wanted to review a couple of points that I think are critical to keep in mind when considering this conditional use request. First of all, multifamily housing is a permitted as of right use in the Golden Triangle District. And it's certainly been the city's policy over the past several years to encourage multifamily living in downtown Pittsburgh. Compared to the prior office use, we are not anticipating any significant or material adverse traffic impacts. The zoning code does not mandate any required parking for downtown buildings. Obviously, there are ample parking facilities available throughout downtown for tenants of the building. The proposal not only received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission, but was also favorably received and is supported by the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership. And we do think that converting this building to residential living will help to activate this upper end, if I can refer to it, of Forbes Avenue. If you think about what's happening development-wise in that part of the city, you've got significant development down near Market Square. It's slowly moving up Forbes Avenue. This will in effect help to anchor the end of Forbes Avenue near Grant Street. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ian from Strata Architects, who's going to run through some slides that we previously presented to the Planning Commission and give you a little bit of better idea of the building and what the proposed use will be. Obviously happy to answer any questions if anybody from City Council has anything to ask.
Thanks, Kevin. I have some slides I'm trying to share, and I'm not sure if, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. And I have, let's see, these were, I'm not sure if Mr. McKeegan, if you need to, if you want to speak to these or just skip ahead to the design portion.
I think you can skip ahead to design.
Okay, good. So again, my name is Ian Fishman. I'm with Strata. We're the design architect and architect of record for the renovation at 429 Forbes Avenue. I'm just going to briefly take you through our plans for this project. Starting on this slide with some existing photos of the exterior and site, and we have no plans at all for proposed changes for the site or very limited proposed changes for the exterior, which I'll get to on the next slide. This shows the elevation along, the top two images show the elevation along Forbes Avenue with the historic entrance on the center bay with the clock above, and then the newer modern existing accessible entrance towards Script Way. This lower right slide shows the loading entrance, which is actually by means of easement, you would have to go below the Macy's building. And then the lower left slide shows the existing exterior pedestrian passageway that connects through along Cherry Way up to Fifth Avenue. This slide shows the existing building light well that faces north. And again, our proposed changes on the exterior are limited to this area, or just some reglazing of the existing historic window sashes where they've been filled in over the years with plywood and louvering. This shows a site plan and first floor and loading dock plan showing some of the site features. Again, no changes proposed for the exterior site at the first floor, but we do have some changes on the interior, just adding a few rooms, fire command room, fire command center, leasing office, mailroom, package room. The existing hatched area shows the existing Apollo Cafe existing to remain. bicycle room in the basement to provide the zoning code required number of bicycle parking, and then improvements to access and egress on this level. And this is just a typical floor plan showing the unit configuration, 10 units per floor, except for the second floor, which would have 7 units, mostly 1 bedrooms and a 2 bedroom at the corner. And then just a few bits of information about this renovation. Sustainability wise, this is the reuse of a historic existing building. All plumbing fixtures are water conserving, low flow. All light fixtures are efficient LED. For construction management, all loading would be through the existing script way. Dumpsters placed within the footprint of the building and the existing loading dock. No street closures would be planned. Duration expected to last 16 to 18 months. And for accessibility, it's a fully accessible building, and new accessible units will be added as required by building code. So that concludes my remarks. So thanks. And I guess at this point, we'll take questions.
Thank you very much. We do have 3, I believe. Hold up, I lost it. Here we go. So we did have 3 registered speakers for the public hearing, although I do not see them yet. Are there questions from members? Councilwoman Gross?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everybody, for your presentation. Development rights are complicated. And we're not really doing interrogative here, right, Mr. Chair? This is a public hearing, not really like a post agenda or anything like that. So I want to say, well, probably I can ask those questions when we have the legislation on the agenda. But I am curious, and you don't really need to answer this now, and maybe it will wait, but I will be asking about this, what I tried to quote you by saying, as the owners of the Allegheny building bought it in August and they are an LLC. This is a very common thing these days of creating an LLC with just the street address of the building. And I think you said they are affiliated entities to the Stanwix building. And so the owner of the Stanwix building is what entity?
The owner of the Stanwick Street building is 201 Stanwick Associates, LLC. Don't want to hide the ball here, but all of these entities are affiliated with PMC Property Group, which is the owner of a number of downtown apartment buildings, the historic Alcoa building, the Clark building, 925 Penn Avenue, the Penn Garrison Lofts. The ultimate owner, if I can put it that way, is quite familiar with downtown Pittsburgh and with downtown Pittsburgh living, if that helps.
That is very helpful. I'm assuming when the PMC affiliated LLC bought the Allegheny building, they paid their real estate transfer tax. You don't have to answer now, but I will be asking that for sure.
I'm happy to answer that question because it's a matter of public record. This was a negotiated arm's length purchase from the prior owner. I don't recall off the top of my head what the final purchase price was. I believe it was in excess of $8 million, and transfer tax was paid on that amount.
Right, right. So you see where I'm going. I am asking because what we've seen elsewhere is loopholes we had hoped wouldn't happen, where buyers and sellers are buying LLCs in whole, so the properties don't technically transfer.
Well, that is not the case here. The property was transferred by deed and was acquired in the normal course of events.
Thank you. I appreciate your being forthright with that answer. I appreciate that very much. So that was kind of the biggest thing on my mind after listening to your presentation, but I probably will have further questions when we have this in legislation in front of us at standing committee. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all.
Thank you very much. Let the record reflect, we have been joined by our President Cale Smith. Is there any other member who wants to make a comment? If not, I do want to try to get in the public speakers that we had registered. The first public speaker that I have as registered is Steve Mazza. Is Mr. Mazza with us?
Can you hear me, Councilman LaBelle?
Yes.
Okay, my name's Steve Mazza. I live at 2912 Zephyr Avenue, Pittsburgh 15204. The contractors of the organization that I work for follow the proper procedures and adhere to the rules of permitting, licensing, and inspection. The developers and contractors that don't are trying to break the rules. When developers work without permits, they are hiding behind a practice that doesn't benefit the worker or the city. When you have a developer that allows this, we begin to deal with the issue of non-payment of taxes, tax fraud, wage theft, non-area standards, and all of the above, which doesn't help anybody at all. The situation at 429 Forbes has created all these issues: non-area standards, exploited workforce, tax fraud, wage theft, lack of health and public safety, all when the city is losing tax dollars during the pandemic. I certainly want all developers to use our contractors on these projects, but this is not a union or non-union issue. It's a situation where we cannot allow developers to work without permits and the guidelines the city has asked all of the following to do. And I don't believe this developer should be allowed to continue doing what he does. Now, that's an issue for me not to decide, but I thank you for the time and your concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Our next registered speaker is Dave DeQuiliente. Is Dave DeQuiliente, and I apologize if I'm messing up the last name, with us? Not seeing him. I would like to move on to Danny Marrero. Is Danny Marrero with us? That individual is also not here. With that being said, we will adjourn. Well, we'll need to take a motion to adjourn our public hearing, and then next time we'll have an opportunity to discuss this will be before our standing committees meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just say I have called in to another body's public comment, and it's really confusing if you haven't done it, that you're like, you sit there in silence and then suddenly there's a robot voice that tells you to like hit star, I think it's star 6 or something. I'm not sure if it's star 6 or star 7. And it sometimes catches you off guard, and it's so difficult for us to have our public commenters waiting and then not know what to do when it's their turn to do it. So I just had to acknowledge that because it happened to me when I was trying to call in and make public comment somewhere. So with that, I'll just motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you. I heard
That's it.
President Kale Smith seconded. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.